Hey everybody, welcome to this episode of Think Business Live. Looking forward to having Jude Charles back on the show. Jude, it's great to connect with you. You're a filmmaker, you're an author, you're the founder and CEO of Jude Charles and Company, and you do some great work. For over the last 15 years, you've been producing documentaries for entrepreneurs. You produced stories for Google, dozens of visionary CEOs. Steve Harvey, who is hilarious. He really is a funny guy. You're also the author of Dramatic Demonstration, and it's a book that is a roadmap that teaches you how to dig deep to finding compelling stories that no one else knows, and then how to leverage those to grow your business. We talked back in August, and when this is put on my website, it'll link to that episode. And so I wanted to talk about, your business and storytelling, and we'll get to that. But, right before we went live, and we're recording this, everyone, live November 2nd as a web show, then it gets put on the podcast. But, you had mentioned that you take the entire month of December off. And so, and I think in a world where, everybody has been running so fast. And one of the things as a business coach I talk about, Think community, you hear me talk about this all the time, the importance of recalibrating and knowing your cadence, and bringing your 100% means taking breaks and brain breaks through the day, and sometimes that's just a minute or 2 minutes, or go for a walk and get into nature, etc. And so kind of walk us through, Jude, kind of your December routine that you told me you've been doing since December 2013, before the pandemic, right? So I think a lot of times people think it's like a post-pandemic, or because there's this kind of looming recession, but this is something you've been doing. So kind of walk us through it.
Yeah, I started in November of 2013. So I take off every year. I take off 2 months. And before I used to do November and December. Now I do June and December, which I'll talk about a little bit later as to why I split it in half from June and December. But there's two things that's really important about taking that time off. One, I started doing it before I could afford to, because I say that because, like, you hear I take 2 months off. What does that look like? How are you making money? How are you paying bills? For me, it was more important to take that time off than to worry about bills being paid, because and not to say I didn't pay my bills, but it was just like, I knew, for me, I'm an introvert. I run a business that goes really deep with my clients, and I knew I needed that time to decompress. Now, back in 2013, we didn't have all the noise that we have today, but I think it's so important today because we're distracted almost 24/7, and we are overstimulated, in my opinion. So that month of December, when I take it off, I am looking to de-stimulate myself. And usually it takes about a week, right, to come down from, like, just constantly emailing or being on social media, or, having client meetings. I take about a week to just do absolutely nothing. There's nothing on my calendar, nothing on the agenda. If I decide to wake up and clean the house, then I'll do that. If I decide to go take a walk, I'll do that. But nothing is on my calendar. No meetings at all. I don't meet with anyone during that time. Last year specifically, I went to a cabin for 10 days. And that means I'm not seeing family. I'm not talking to family. Again, it's just me time. It's time for Jude to take care of himself during that time. I have a questionnaire. I forget how many questions are on there, but I do like an assessment. What went right? What went wrong for the year, personally and professionally? So 2 different sections of personally and professionally. What do I want to do more of? What do I want to stop doing? That's an important question for me. What do I want to stop doing that I just kind of picked up on doing? So yeah, I've been doing it since 2013, and
hold on. I want to dive a little bit deeper into these questions, because I'm a big believer. I talk about this a lot when I'm coaching people. The person who asks the questions controls the conversation, and questions raise awareness. And so you're talking about your own personal awareness. And so what questions are you asking to kind of like decompress and refuel your soul?
Yeah, I'm pulling it up now just so I can give you very specific questions. So, what were the biggest accomplishments in video production? List at least 3. So this is where I'm looking at the business side of it. The biggest accomplishments in business development. I'm looking at biggest accomplishments because for this, really, this section is all about the 80-20 rule. You know that 20% of the work gives you 80% of the results. And I'm looking at, okay, what is it that I missed that I probably didn't realize was actually bringing in a lot of the results? What were the biggest accomplishments in personal development? What helped me make the greatest improvements? So this is the personal side. And then I go into what didn't you do well? What are the business challenges you're having? What are the personal challenges? Did you accomplish all the goals that you had set out for the year? And then, like I mentioned, there's a very important question that I spent a lot of time on. I probably spent at least 2 days on this. What do you want to stop doing and why?
Yeah.
Now, do I want to, and the why is important because do I want to stop doing it just because I don't like it? Or do I want to stop doing it because it's too hard? Those are two different answers. If I don't like it and it's not helping me move forward, okay, that's stop it, right? But if I don't like it just because it's hard, that doesn't mean I should stop doing it. What can I do to make it easier? Or what is the end result? Is this going to help me get better at public speaking? Is this going to help me land a bigger client than I've ever landed before? Is this going to help me just be a better human being in general? Right? Like, so for example, this year alone, I read a lot of books. This year, I've only read autobiographies. So before I just used to read all kind of things, self-help books, but this year it's only been autobiographies. And I even think to myself, like, okay, what am I gaining from reading this year? Right? And is this helping me grow personally? Instead of professionally, like I would read self-help books, or I've read E-Myth or other business books. What is helping me grow personally? Like that's also important as well. So these are all the kind of questions that I ask myself to go really deep, and I take my time. I don't rush through it. I also, of course, set goals as well. So I'll ask, what is the one goal you want for next year? And then going through. So there's a book called, I think it was called I can't remember the name now, but it talks about lead measures and lag measures, which was mind blowing.
Leading activities and lagging activities.
Right. Yeah. But I think it's called the 4 distinctions or 4 something, but it's a very popular business book.
Yeah, I've read that book. You know, it's funny. I was talking leading and lagging activities before I read that book, and then I read that book, and I thought, oh, this must be the book that somebody 25 years ago said, and I just have been using it. So yeah, that's a really good book.
Yeah. And so I incorporated that into my assessment for the year. What are leading measures or leading activities versus lagging activities? Again, very deep questions. Pushing myself out of my comfort zone for me personally. And I think that's the biggest thing. It's really about me personally than it is about the business. Of course, because I run a business, I've been doing it 16 years. I know that the business is a big part of my life, so I make it a part of this assessment, but it's really about like checking myself. Now I do it every 6 months. So I'll talk really quickly about why I do it every 6 months. October of 2020, I woke up one morning and I was paralyzed from the neck down.
What?
And I laid in bed for 2 hours, did not understand what was going on. Long story short, when I got out of bed, I was finally able to move, ended up calling my therapist, trying to figure out what was, because I knew it was mental more than it was physical. I was diagnosed with burnout, depression, and anxiety. And so I had an amazing, yes, the pandemic happened in 2020, but I had an amazing year financially. But I also didn't take time off. And what I realized, which is why I changed from going from November, December, taking time off to June and December, is that I would race and work hard between January and October. But then November, I'd be burnt out, tired. And it made more sense to now take June off and December off. So 2021 is when I first changed that to June 2020. June 2021, I took off. December 2021, I took off. And I'm glad I did that because this year, June 2020, May of 2022, I went to work for a client the week before I took time off. And we were at an event, me and my team filming at the event. There's 4 of us there. It's a 3-day event. I and my team are in the lobby filming an interview with my client of this conference. And then we go back into the conference center, and my head of production, Jason, as soon as I walk back in, he's like, we just got robbed. Now, Jason's usually, he likes to crack jokes. He's a funny guy. And I was like, and I'm thinking he's just giving a joke. I look at him and it's a very serious face that he has on. Someone had walked to the conference room while we were filming with my client. We came to this event with 4 cameras and 10 lenses and a bunch of other equipment, but those are the biggest equipment. Someone stole 2 cameras, 8 lenses, almost completely wiped us out. And it was extremely stressful because we're only on day 2 of this event. I still have another day to film, day and a half, really.
Yeah.
The reason I share that story is because, to be completely transparent, I wanted to quit after that because in 16 years, I have never as much lost a cord or a microphone. But to have someone target us, because we later found out after the police report, they looked through the cameras that were the security cameras. This person had sat in the room for an hour, targeted us, and took everything within a span of 13 seconds. And that's never happened to me before. And of course, coming out of burnout, coming out of depression and anxiety, this is like, okay, this is a sign for me to completely walk away from this. But because I took the break in June, the week after, I took a complete month off, I was able to, again, go through these reassessment questions, look at my standard operating procedures. What can we change about what happens when we go to film with a client? You know, we're a big team and we have a lot of equipment. This is why it's important to take time off. We can go, and not realizing we are responsible for what happens in life. Especially as the leader, the CEO of your company, executive of your company, you are responsible for what happens with your team. You are responsible for how the business continues to grow. And so I am grateful that I now take June and December off. But
Yeah.
I wouldn't change it for the world. I started doing it before I could afford to do it. Now I can afford to do it. I'm able to save pretty well so that I take that time off and not stress about anything else. But yeah, that's a big deal for me to take that time off. My clients know it before they start working with me, and they respect it, and they know I'm going to be better once I get back and begin working with them. So.
Yeah, it's part of your culture, right? It sounds like it's part of your culture when you're talking to your clients. You know, I always share with clients, like, if you set the stage, then it's the discovery that, you know, of change that people react to. But
Yeah.
you know, when you're as good as you are and the work that you do is great, you know, I think it's amazing. I'm curious, you know, you said you're an introvert, you go to a cabin. I mean, do you spend time in silence? Do you spend time meditating? Is there a difference for you between the two? You know, how do you, you know, what are some of the routines you do, minus the question, you know, in addition to the questions that you do to kind of, you know, get your energy back and refuel and recalibrate, and what is the feeling when you get that?
The feeling I get is clarity, and
Uh-huh.
it is amazing joy and clarity. What do I do? So meditation is definitely a part of it. It's complete silence. The reason I went to a cabin is because I wanted complete silence, and that meant no technology. That's another thing that I do during this month of December specifically. June I'll have technology, but December I don't have any technology with me. I don't use my computer. I'll barely use my phone really to check in and let people know I'm still alive. But um, what's important is complete silence because I realized I needed to know, what does Jude think outside of the noise. So we're influenced by a lot of different things, right? And so I want to know, what is it that Jude thinks and why do I think this? Again, I'm questioning myself. I'm challenging myself over and over as to why. If I think something, why do I think that? Um, so like I'm thinking of I was in the cabin last year. I went to Nashville, Tennessee, and the first day is, of course, just checking in, getting settled. I go to sleep early, and so I will probably go to sleep maybe around 8 at that during this season. I don't normally go to sleep at 8, but around 8. And then whenever I wake up is when I wake up. Now, if I happen to wake up at 3 a.m., I wake up at 3 a.m. And if I wake up at 7 a.m. the next day, I wake up at 7 a.m. So again, there isn't a real set schedule.
Yeah.
I will take time to walk out in the woods. So the cabin is obviously in the woods, and I'll go out and walk for an hour and just truly take in the air, take in the experience. And Yeah, it's hard to like really describe because there's nothing that I really do outside of making sure that it's complete silent.
Yeah.
If something comes to mind, outside of the silence, and then I already know I have the questionnaire, which I handwrite. I don't do this on a laptop. I do it handwritten. I already have the questions written out in a journal, and then I'll handwrite it out. Um, yeah. Other than that, it's like I spend at least 5 days with just the questions. If there's questions I don't know how to answer, I'll go really deep in that. Um, I know, like last year, if I look at the journal from last year, I broke down my life from leadership and prayer because I am a man of faith. So leadership and prayer. I am not married yet, but I thought of marriage, family, and kids, health, self-care, fun, and sleep. And I think that was the last section. Oh, and then evidence of my personal health. So I was also thinking of what is my personal health. The last section is zone of genius.
Yeah.
We've probably heard of that before, right? With, I forget the author's name, but he has a book called, it's a popular book too. I can't remember any of these book titles today, but he talks about the zone of genius and working in your zone of genius, the one place that you are uniquely qualified to work as a leader. So I spend time there as well, but
Are you
I'm just
talking
taking a lot of
about
time.
are you talking about Dan Sullivan, strategic coach?
He talks about it as well, but he's not the
Yeah.
originator of it.
No, I don't think he is, but his is good stuff. Well,
Yeah.
I love what you're talking about, Jude, and I'm glad we kind of spent this time talking about it because I think as a business coach, you know, in my one-on-one, in my keynotes, in my trainings, I'm always talking about the power of executive time, silence, meditation, recalibrating, brain breaks, you know, and taking those throughout the day because it's so important. And I'm, you know, I found myself, I used to work on Saturdays and Sundays and just do kind of busy work, but I would say about a year and a half ago, I stopped really doing work on Saturdays. I couldn't, I needed that day to kind of refuel. And I often tell myself, like, I should just go, like, you know, stay in a hotel one night and get some silence, you know, do some just planning questions like you're talking about. And
Yeah.
I never do. But I think you're inspiring me to kind of make those silent retreats more
Mhm.
kind of part of my year because I know I need them. I just sometimes
Yeah.
don't take them. So I meditate a lot so I can refuel that way. I do transcendental meditation and things of
Mhm.
that nature. So this has been great. All right.
Why haven't you taken the silent retreats? Just out of curiosity.
I actually signed up for one, paid for it, and then I got a great opportunity to do some work. This was years ago to go do a keynote at PayPal. So I was like, keynote, PayPal, silent retreat. I chose PayPal,
Yeah.
and so, but it is. But I want to do it. So, but I get a lot of silence every day doing
Yeah.
you know, meditating. But you've inspired me to kind of take it up a notch. So
I think there's a different level to which I believe in meditation. I haven't been able to regularly meditate, but I meditate. I don't do it daily, but I do try to do it at least once a week. And I think there is a level of depth that comes out of taking so much time off for a silent retreat, even if it's 3 or 4 days, right? Because I know I'm on the extreme end of taking 2 months off. But even if you were to take, let's say, a Friday to Monday, you went to a hotel for 4 days, complete silence. Um, there's a level of clarity that comes that allows you to make leapfrogs ahead. Like you're able to grow much faster when you're able to think clearly,
yeah,
right? And there's a level of depth that happens, a transformation that happens. And I feel it every December that I do this, which is why I hadn't stopped doing it. The very first year I did it, I honestly was surprised, but I think the following year was 2014. I had increased my income by 40% that year.
yeah,
And a big part of it was because of this December 2013 that I took time off, November and December that I took time off.
yeah,
And so, yeah, there's a level of transformation that happens. It's hard to describe, but when you go through it and you do the things that you need, Now,
Yeah.
I personally, I need silence. I need that time. Some other people may need to camp, right? And they want to be in nature. They want to fish for the entire month. Do what you need.
Yeah.
Um, and it's important for you to find out what it is that you need. But when you get that and you're able to not worry about work or to be stressed out about work or
Yeah.
even stressed out about family life, it gives you a level of clarity to now show up differently, and you show up for the people that you love differently, and you show up for your clients differently.
Yeah.
The book that I was talking about was The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks. That was where he talks about zone of genius. But the subtitle is Conquer Your Hidden Fear and Take Life to the Next Level.
I love it.
But The Big Leap was a book that definitely changed my life. I think I read that back in 2018, 2019.
I'll check it out.
Yeah, and it's an amazing book. It's an amazing book that talks about this and goes really deep about that moment where you hit this roadblock and you're like, you're making really good money, but it's going to the next level. What got you here won't get you there. And The Big Leap talks about how do you conquer and go to that next level.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's again, I've been doing that, and I'm getting ready for it now. I'm winding down.
Yeah.
I'm still working, but winding down so that December 1st to December 31st, completely off the grid.
I love it.
And
tell everybody in a sentence or two what you do. I mean, everybody can go back and we'll link from this interview and listen to our August interview about more about your business. But tell everybody in a couple sentences, what you do and who your clientele are.
Yes. So I work with entrepreneurs specifically. I help them leverage the power of storytelling. The deliverable happens to be a documentary about their life. But what that does is it helps them communicate very clearly who they are, what they're about, what do they stand for. And we show that. I wrote a book called Dramatic Demonstration, which talks about this process of getting to that point where you're able to leverage the power of your own story and to attract the right audience. I've been doing that for 16 years. I started at 17 years old when my teacher, Mrs. Donnelly, handed me my first set of business cards and told me, Jude, you needed to start a business. And now 16 years later, I am loving it and working with clients to help them leverage the power of their story. I also do consulting. And then this month, I am launching a story bank journal. I believe that in the same way that we go to the gym and we need to put in reps to build muscle, you need to put in reps to get better at storytelling. Part of that is what I call a story bank journal. You deposit the stories in order to be able to withdraw the stories later on, to teach lessons, to connect with people in a deeper way. Storytelling is my life. Leadership and storytelling is my life. It's my life's purpose to lead and empower entrepreneurs to have relentless courage. That is what I do. We talked about that on the last podcast, so you guys can go back and listen to more of what I do there. But in a couple sentences, that's who I am. That's what I do, is help entrepreneurs leverage the power of storytelling.
I love it. Jude, this has been great. Think community, JudeCharles.co. I'm a business coach. I work with successful people who are stuck. I get them unstuck. And what I love about this podcast is I have guests that can help people get unstuck. And everything you shared today, whether you do it, incorporate it into your world for a minute, an hour, a day, a week, a month, 2 months, whatever it is, I think many of us can extract what Jude is talking about and incorporate some level of more time to recalibrate, especially in this world that is moving so fast. Jude, I appreciate it. You can get a hold of Jude at JudeCharles.co. His work is great. And you can get a hold of me at JonDwoskin.com. Jude, this was great. I thought we were going to be talking about business again in video, but this was even better. We'll have you on again, but this was awesome. Have a great December and unplug. And I look forward to connecting with you again soon.
John, thank you for having me. It is definitely a pleasure. I just love sharing the things that have helped me continue to grow. And I know that's what you're doing with your clients and your audience as well. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thanks so much.